Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gotham Plays Over the Board Real Classical Chess, which is a renamed series previously known as Road to Grandmaster. I'm joking, of course, but it's been quite some time since I have played Over the Board. For those of you that have been following my channel recently, you know that I said that in December I would play 2 tournaments, and this is the very first one. It's actually local. It's pretty low key. It's not broadcasted anywhere. It's just a bunch of people who get together on the weekend and wanted to play some chess. And these were 90-minute games, 90-30, the typical chess format. So I'll be sharing them with you, shaking off the rust, shaking off the cobwebs, having just turned 30, a ripe old dinosaur, strolling into the playing hall, and hoping to gain some rating before the next big tournament. Most of you are used to me playing 9-round tournaments with grandmasters and norms and all that. But not all tournaments are like that. So for this game, the story is actually quite a funny one, and you're about to see why. So I am playing against somebody named Logan Brain. Also, longtime viewers of this channel know I played this individual a year and a half ago in July here in New York City, and I won that game, but it was very, very difficult, and that was actually the tournament I did really, really well. But I got a little bit lucky. So I was like, oh, playing Logan again. He's gonna be really locked in, looking for revenge. His students will be watching, so shout out to them. He opened with e4, and again, I got my opponent 30 minutes before the game, so I really didn't know what to expect. But here is funny story number 1. So I played Caro-Kann. I mean, I've been looking at a lot of different openings, but I thought with 30 minutes to prepare, let's play what we know best. Logan played d4, d5, and now is the major question of what, is going to happen. Will white play e5? Will white take, etc.? He went knight c3. I wasn't particularly thrilled to see this move because knight c3 is nowadays one of the least ambitious ways to play against the Caro-Kann. Like, obviously, the most ambitious being the advanced variation and then the fantasy and so on. So when he played knight c3, I thought, okay, takes, and now is the major question. Nowadays, many people are playing knight f6, which is the Tartic hour. I played this for a bit, but to be honest with you, at master level, I kind of hate it now. Like, the main line for white is just very pleasant, and then the pawn structure is kind of damaged. So I said, you know what, let's go back to bishop f5. I've played this many, many years. It's a completely legitimate and solid weapon. Knight to g3 is what he played. Bishop g6, this is the way it goes. And now, really the only way to play for any sort of advantages with h4, and then there's some tricky lines where this knight tries to go to f4, like knight h3 is actually kind of a cool line, the idea being knight f4, and then if black is not careful, white plays h4, and actually already is almost winning, because h5 is coming, and if you move your pawn, there is this. So here you just have to know some tricks, like e5 takes, queen a5 check, taking this pawn, and that's how you equalize. But anyway, he went knight f3, e6, and I was like, look, I played this against the world. I mean, obviously, I don't think Logan is actually Logan is better than the world if we take their average rating. h4, h6. So this is the major thing here. He played knight f3, and historically black goes knight d7 because this knight is trying to go to e5. What has been discovered is you don't actually have to do that. And in this game, I let him put his knight on e5. This is completely fine for black. If white goes knight e5, bishop h7, white really doesn't have anything better than playing bishop here anyway. And then black simply trades the knight. And yeah, I mean, the computer thinks that this is 0.3, but there is nothing. And so I was like, okay, I mean, if Logan wants to play knight e5, he can. But he already started thinking here. So I was a little bit perplexed because, I mean, this is all very, very normal, right, in this line. He went h5 after spending several minutes, so I already was gaining some confidence. Bishop d3, takes. And now the plan of this position is, since black never committed the knight to d7, black will try to play c5 and knight c6. This is just a different way to play the classical Caro-Kann, and if you have experience in this opening, this is the experience that you build up. The traditional main line is bishop d2, bishop e7, long castle, short castle, white goes knight e4, and white tries to checkmate you with g4. But the position is totally equal here as well. This is just another way to try to play for something a little bit different. So long castle, this is what happened. Knight f6, bishop d2, bishop e7. He was still kind of thinking, honestly, on every single move. I went c5, and he went deep in the tank. Here he thought for maybe 20 minutes. So I already have like a, 30-minute time advantage. But like I said, there's a funny story about this. I played this position already 6 years ago against the Cuban grandmaster Yasser Quesada. There's also Yunieski Quesada, and there's also Luis Ernesto Quesada, I'm pretty sure, who I have played multiple times in Blitz games on this channel recently. So I knew this position already. I mean, I played it 6 years ago, and I actually won that game. That was one of my best wins ever. Now, Logan spent some time and ended up playing the best move, which is knight to e4 anyway, trying to trade these pieces. And here, recently, a friend of mine played pawn takes d4. It's one of the moves. I wanted to keep the psychological pressure on Logan, so without even thinking, I didn't even look at this. I just played knight c6 because this is what I played 6 years ago, and I know that it's completely fine. Now, you might be looking at this position and wondering, isn't this a free pawn? Yes, but not quite. It's kind of a positional sacrifice for black, who ultimately will end up in a very comfortable position. There's another way that white can play, which is knight takes f6. Here I was going to play bishop takes, pawn takes, here, and even though black is down a pawn, white's position is very bad. Because this pawn is weak, this pawn is overextended with rook d5 coming with pressure. I'm going to double, the bishop dominates the knight completely. This knight is ready to jump in, so I was feeling very confident. Unfortunately, Logan spent another 20 minutes here and played the best move. 6 years ago, my opponent, Grandmaster Yasser, played bishop c3, which is an inaccuracy. And there's also bishop e3 and other moves here. But Logan actually played the best move. So Logan actually played better than the Grandmaster I played 6 years ago, despite being 440 points lower rated. I was actually very annoyed. When he played knight c5, I was actually very annoyed because I was just like, wow. He's going for this position. So white is up a pawn, but black has the pressure. Black is going to play rook d5 and then put pressure like this. So he went here, I played rook d5, he went into a think again, and Logan, despite being 45 minutes down on the clock at this point, 45 to 90, I haven't even spent any time, plays all the best moves. So he finds all the best moves. At this point, I was in my mind, I was going full Magnus. Not beating my opponent effortlessly, Magnus. Honestly, at this point, I was sitting at the board going, this is so silly. First of all, I had another thought, which was, why do we play chess with 90 minutes on the clock? This was one of my thoughts. Why do we play 3 to 6 hours classical chess? Look, I surprised my opponent. He just spends 45, 50 minutes in the opening. He calmly plays all the best moves, despite 2100, not 24, not 25. And I was just having these thoughts man, I really wish I was playing a 45-minute game right now, because Logan would have flagged. That would have been cool. I was having all these we need to change the format so it benefits me because I'm a baby. Anyway, so this is the position, and now I have a decision. I can take on h5, or I could play something else. I can also maybe play rook h5. Spent a bit of time here because I couldn't quite decide the difference between rook d8 and knight takes h5. I thought if I went rook d8 now and he defended himself, that in many positions this is capturable with a check. At the same time, I thought here he could maybe play knight to d2 with ideas of knight c4 and knight d6. Knight d2 right away is not possible, but it's a distant idea because this now has more protection. Could not decide, ended up going knight h5. Here is fun story number 2. This position, I swear to you, was on my laptop screen at home before I left my house this morning. I literally, in the 20 minutes I had to prepare for my game, I looked at my game against Yasser, and I looked at the whole line, and I was like, yeah, but what if Logan plays knight c5? And then I was like, well, if he plays knight c5, takes, long castle, rook d5, and knight h5. I got 18 moves of prep on the board. 18 moves, all my prep literally on the board right here, right? And I was like, wow, this is perfect. I mean, that's really, really rare. Now I have to figure out how to outplay him. He quickly improved his position with king c2, and now I spent maybe 20-ish minutes because everything looked pretty good, to be honest. First of all, I considered just an improving move like a6. I considered immediately breaking up his pawns with b6. I considered, what does he want? Does he want to go b5 or d4 or rook h4, or what does he want? Do I go rook d8? Do I just bring my knight back to f6? I saw a neat trap if he plays b5. I can play rook c5 with a pin. So that looked kind of interesting. Well, this is just winning, but knight f6 looked like an interesting move. And then I calculated, so I would like to show you what I calculated here. I calculated an insanely long sequence. I calculated knight to f4. Now, the idea of knight to f4 is pretty straightforward. I'm obviously just attacking a pawn. If he were to take on g7, then obviously I would be taking with a check. So in this position, a much more natural move is g3, which forces knight to e. So this didn't happen, but I calculated knight f4, g3, knight e2, bishop g7, rook g8. He takes my second pawn. I play rook f5, attacking his knight on f3, which is weakened because I forced the g pawn to move. Now the knight is hanging, and if he moves it, I take on f2. The king is under fire, and g3 suddenly is very weak. But rook f5 is well met with b5, and then I was thinking rook f3, bc6, rook f2, cb7, king b7. So when I calculated this entire sequence of moves, I thought, hey, wow, I'm actually like pretty good. Like I haven't played chess in a year, but I'm pretty sure all of this is accurate. And sure enough, knight f4, g3, knight e2, bishop g7, rook g8, bishop h6, rook f5 counterattack is all good for me. The only move that white has here is b5, and I have rook f3, bc6, rook f2, cb7, king b7 with an equal position. The king is coming here. These pawns are not very strong. G3 is always falling. You know, he would play rook d2. I would take on g3. Anyway, I played knight f4 in the game, and without even thinking, Logan went here. So he didn't even entertain me at all. I mean, like because you know he was down. To his credit, this was very good by him that he knew he needed to catch up on the clock. So he played a move very fast, and now b4 is protected in every position, and bishop g7 could be hanging. Now, again, I have a million options. Taking on g2 was never my idea, because it would allow him to play something like, I just thought rook g1, and if I go back, of course, he's taking on g7, and this is problematic for me. And you know, he played fast, so I kind of wanted to play fast too. I thought about e5, f6, rook d8. I thought, look, I'm just going to play f6 and e5. I mean, right, I'm going to make a triple, pawn against against this bishop. The f6, e5 looks very smart. Okay, f6 is not the computer's top choice. I don't really understand why. I don't know. I mean, it wants me to go e5 straight away. And then if my knight gets attacked, it wants me to put the knight on e6, which certainly makes sense. Like e5, knight e6, definitely makes sense. But then I have to calculate d4, e4, knight e5, takes, the rooks have to come off the board, and knight here, rook g7, and, maybe I'm playing with an outside pass pawn, but he's taking my other pawn. I mean, maybe. E5 certainly is a logical move. I just thought f6. Can't be bad. He went g3, and again, I thought I'm implementing my entire plan. He goes rook to e1. I'm taking his bishop, and then here I thought, again, I can go e5. e5 is the automatic move, and I'm calculating knight d2. His knight is trying to come into the d6 square. I'm going to play b6 very quickly, undermine his structure, and we're going to have a long battle in an endgame. Another thing I saw here was rook f5. Now, check this out. So rook f5, rook e3, right? He's guarding his knight. I thought knight e7, and I simply win the game because I'm threatening knight to d5, which is a fork, and the rook can't guard the knight anymore. But the second I go here, he can take on e6 now. And if I play rook f3, he goes here. If I go here, he checks me. If I check him, king c4, and it's absolutely nuts. I can't take the knight on f3. I just can't take the knight because because this. And then I thought I have b5 check. But if I play b5 check, he goes king d4. And obviously if he took, there was a fork. If there was this, I had knight takes. And now I play knight c7. And this is the craziest part about this position. He can just go back. And if I play knight d5, he just moves the rook, and I cannot take this because of this. I mean, this is, look, and I mean, it looks like I have mate. It looks like, but the king goes to e4. When I calculated this line, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that rook f5 runs into rook e3 here, and everything that I just said, king c4, b5, a wicked move. He can just avoid it and put his king on e4, and it's fine. The position is completely fine. In fact, it is black who has to be accurate because black is down a pawn. I was like, how is this possible? Another thing about rook f5 is, obviously he wants to defend his knight because the pawn... No, he doesn't even have to. He doesn't even have to defend his pawn, which is really sick. He can let me take it and then take my pawn, and actually his counterattack is stronger. Having said all that, I played the move e5. This is the stuff you calculate in 90-minute chess. I mean, I could have played e5 in 2 seconds. If it was a blitz game, I would have went e5. He went knight d2 anyway, and now the major question here. So here's a funny thing that I did. Obviously, the position is equal, 0-0-3. It's clear he's trying to bring his knight forward and maybe play the move f4 at some point. Now, I thought about where to go here. I thought about immediately playing the move pawn to b6, undermining him. To be honest, this is the one move I regret not playing in this game, but otherwise, I don't regret much. So I was thinking b6 or the immediate rook to d8. And I had a moment here where I was calculating and I was thinking, well, Magnus doesn't like to rush pawn moves. He's very careful with his pawn moves. So why wouldn't I just bring my rook? Like this is a very natural move. Except I'm not Magnus, like I'm a huge moron compared to him. And b6 makes way more sense. Why? Because he can't put his knight on c4 if I play b6. I thought he could do whatever he wants, but the thing is, he has to take now, or he has to play knight e4, right? He has to guard the pawn this way. Why this is important is the rook no longer hits the pawn, so f4 is not as powerful. Position is still around equal, but if we traded, then in the long run, I kind of felt this structure versus this structure was better for black. Like, I didn't know how I was going to exploit it, but I just had a feeling I would bring my king, my rook. I felt like, maybe b5, knight c4 now, obviously. I go king c7, and I play b5 next, although he is still in time to play this move f4 and try to, break the position. Anyway, in the game, I now cannot play the move b5 because this is hit, and when I'm preparing b6, now he strikes with f4. And this is perhaps the last moment where I can maybe instigate. And by instigate, I mean, I'm the higher rated player. I'm trying to play the position for a win, but like I'm following the age-old wisdom of like the opponent hasn't done anything stupid. So why do I think that I have a winning chance, right? For your opponent to have a losing chance, they had to have done something dumb. And I mean, it doesn't look that way. So I thought about taking on f4. I didn't love this. I figured this transformation benefited me in endgames. In a knight endgame and a king and pawn endgame, I'm just winning because I have 3 pawns to 1 and then they will become passers. The problem is with rooks, there is no guarantee. I mean, if anything, these are weak pawns potentially. And I didn't know what my move here was going to be. Like, I thought about b6 now, but I didn't see where, he would go b5, I would go here, take, a4. Like, I saw this position and I just didn't know how I was going to play this for a win. It felt risky, very risky with his pawns coming and his rook maybe coming in as well. I wasn't so sure, and I didn't have the targets in the position either. Like even here, I thought about rook f5. Rook f5 just loses to b5. Like he can just ignore me. So when I realized that, I was like, okay, well, I can't do that. So I'm going to maybe go knight d4 first. But if I go knight d4 first, he gets knight d6, which is like the move I was trying to prevent, And if b6, he goes rook e7. And then he has knight e8 and rook g7 ideas. I mean, I don't know. When he played f4, I was like, oh, I think I have to make a draw now. So I played b6. Here I considered trading the knight, but I went here, and I thought actually everything was good, and I saw a really cool sequence here. I thought if he does this, then I have this structure. I play b5, rook a8, and I'm playing for a win. Now I calculated a very cool sequence, which is b5, knight a5. I thought this was insanely clever of me. Check this out. If I go to d4, then I just lose the pawn on e5 in a lot of positions, and we also get this structure again. So this like double, defended pawn. So check this out. I went knight a5, and I was really proud of the sequence that I saw. Pawn takes, rook e5 wins a pawn. Like it's straight up winning a pawn because if I take it, he takes. So I was thinking knight c4, rook d5, king c4, and here I was going to play check here, rook here, and I thought this is a winnable endgame. Because what's going to happen is I'm threatening this pawn and it's not easy to protect. In fact, if you try, I thought, practically speaking, this is insanely difficult. because your rook is super passive and I have a 2-on-1 and I'm going to bring my king and I don't know how you're moving any of your pawns forward. So when I saw this line where I'm a pawn down but my activity dominates, I thought I have a pretty good chance in this position, you know, because I don't know how he's going to proceed. I'm going to play h5. If he goes here, I'm going to play g6. Like, there's a way he even does this, and then he might lose. So he definitely cannot do that, you know? If he might go here, and then I would play h4, and this is a miserable position, I thought, for white. I mean, it's, yeah, the computer thinks it's still a draw, but so that this is what I went for. I went knight a5, pawn takes, but Logan just played very well. I mean, he just took my knight, and then he went a4 anyway. And this was excellent play by him. Like, the pawn is now a pass pawn, which is really annoying. I have to always monitor it. It's protected, which is really annoying. I'm trying to win the pawn, which is impossible because he always has rook e4, king b3, and rook a1. And even if I were to get this pawn would run. So I went here, and a few moves later, he actually offered me a draw. He played king e3 and he offered a draw. There's a little bit of psychology here when like a player slightly lower rated plays a slightly higher rated player. You know, you first of all, I could have offered a draw. It's very normal where the higher rated player is the one offering a draw when they realize, like, I don't have any more winning chances. I'm not going to, you know, try to play this for a win and, you know, instigate. You did really, you know, you did well. Like, let's make the draw. It happens. If the higher rated player really, really stubbornly wants to play for a win, I have no idea how black is supposed to do that in this position. I thought about it long and hard. There are plenty of ways to play for a loss. Like, I thought in this position, maybe, you know, you can play rook f8 and go here. But I thought, you know, Logan could even make this move and then attack my pawns. And like, I can't move. These pawns are just too weak. This is just, you know, white will, no, not that move. White will go here, white will go here. It's just impossible. Maybe if Magnus was playing black, he would win, but you know, it's a pretty dead position. And so we made a draw. I wanted to offer him a draw. I thought maybe he would consider playing for a win with rook b1, and I was gonna go check and then something, but I was gonna go rook g2, and I thought we were gonna get this. I thought this is how the game was gonna end because, like, to be honest, if I do this, I mean, I might lose. Really, I mean, this pawn is extremely scary. And this concluded my first game back, you know? I had a lot of thoughts during this game. Like I said in the beginning, I was thinking, how can I get 18 moves of prep on the board and my opponent just thinks for 45 minutes, has all the time to play all the best moves, and is just like, I mean, he played incredibly well. I was very annoyed with him. And then when I game reviewed it, so I'm game reviewing the game, he played at 98.9% accuracy, and I played at 99.0%. On this game review, it says 97.5 and 97.4. We played a literally perfect game of chess, and I lost 2.5 rating points and spent 3 hours. And I was just like, during this game, I was just thinking like, yo, this is terrible. like if you have an end goal in mind, and you know you have a long journey to this end goal, and you think like every game and every experience is like a, you know, that's actually how you're supposed to think. But that is not really like how I'm thinking. I was thinking like, man, I would love to spend my time in a more productive and fun environment than this. Like, I don't know. I wasn't feeling very upset with the game itself. I played well and he played well, and that's really all you can ask for. But he played better than his GM did 6 years ago, you know? So shout out to Logan. But yeah, I mean, overall I was like, damn, pretty brutal. Chess is a brutal activity at this level. If you're 2,000 and below, go to your local club and play as much chess as you'd like. It's a lot of fun. That is all I have for you in this recap. More games coming up and updates and so on. Yeah, get out of here.